As we are reading the gospel accounts describing Jesus and his final moments, leading him to his death on the cross and then to resurrection after that, there are so many things happening there that quite easily we may overlook. And one of those important things is that the Jewish leaders, and especially religious leaders, they were hurrying. They were very much concerned. They wanted to see Jesus sentenced and killed before Shabbat would begin, especially a special Shabbat representing the Passover at that time. In the Gospel of John, chapter 18, as from verse 28, we are reading, for example, a description of what happened when the Jewish leaders brought Jesus to Pilate. It says here, "By now it was early morning, and to avoid ceremonial uncleanness, the Jews did not enter the palace. They wanted to be able to eat the Passover." So what is happening here? Very quickly. To be in tune with their religious regulations, to be in tune with the law of God, the way they understood it, to be in tune with their religious tradition. They wanted to make sure that whatever they are doing in the process, as they were bringing Jesus to the point of his death, that it's done according to the law, to the religious law, that it's perfectly kept. They wanted to stay outside of the port or the place where Pilate was and send Jesus in, but they didn't want to go themselves because according to their law, they would be defiled to go into the presence of a Gentile person. Do you see this absurdity of a situation when basically a religion defeats its own purpose? When religion kills your faith, when religion not only becomes meaningless, but actually becomes the very enemy of God you want to serve. They were plotting, planning, executing their plans. In the process, they were lying and doing who knows what to kill Jesus or to have Jesus killed. At the same time, they wanted to uphold the principles and the laws of their own religion. As I said also a moment ago, they wanted also to have all of this done so they could have Jesus murdered, but on time for the Shabbat. Do you see the cynicism of the situation? Can you find some parallels in our own time around us that can probably describe a similar situation where one's religion is defeating its own purpose, and the purpose is to actually bring you closer to God? It was only a couple of days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, that I had this opportunity to watch this video podcast recorded, broadcast by 2 young Israeli men. It seems that their podcast is pretty popular within their own circles. And those 2 young men with such a nonchalant attitude, with such ease, with such a casuality, are talking how they feel about Palestinians who are living just a few miles away from them. And they say that if they would have an opportunity in one moment, in one go, to press this red button, that they would do it without hesitation, without any second thought, and have the entire Gaza with all its people obliterated. And if they could, if the opportunity presented itself, they will do it again and again and again and again. This is how they feel about Palestinians, that they are deserving of this. And then as they were chatting together, there's one moment which caught my attention. which probably many have not noticed. And this is that one of them said, they were talking about how, said, it is so amazing that here we are living in the situation of some kind of normalcy. We go to concerts, we go to cafes, while at the same time, people in Gaza who are alive live under the most miserable conditions. And they were talking with such a pleasure of this, emphasizing that actually they're going to the concerts, cafes, and doing the other thing becomes even more pleasurable, knowing that people just a few miles away, a few kilometers away, are excessively suffering. And one of them even used the illustration of going, I think, buying ice cream just ahead of Shabbat so that he can eat with his family or friends, I have no idea with whom, he can eat this ice cream on Shabbat and basically enjoy thinking how the people a few miles away are suffering, are suffering, are suffering. Do you see this perversion there? Do you see this perversion? He's talking, he's, by the way, using Shabbat, a day that represents rest in God. And he's taking this illustration and he's putting in this context his pleasure, enjoyment in knowing that people are suffering not far away from him. Do you see this perversion of the misuse and abuse of religion? Also, not that long ago, I saw another kind of video, and I saw quite a few of them of a similar nature. There is this man, Israeli soldier, who is preparing. I think he was not the only one. I believe he also had his mates, some other friends with him. They are preparing themselves to blast one mosque in Gaza. And as they are making themselves ready and they are doing whatever preparations, they're filming at the same time. And this guy is giving a message that with the recording of this video, he wants to wish a happy Shabbat to his family, maybe girlfriend, friends. Happy Shabbat, because they were going to blast the mosque. And they're saying no more prayers on Friday, no more prayers on Friday. And they're saying happy Shabbat at the same time. Do you see the perversion? What kind of God is that requires this kind of religion? What kind of God was that 2,000 years ago required that kind of religion that led those people to ready themselves for the beginning of Shabbat at the same time? They were planning, plotting, and making sure that their plans are executed and that Jesus is killed before the Passover Shabbat began. I don't know, friends, maybe you can think of some of other illustrations. Maybe you can think about illustrations that are closer to you, that involve us Christians. When Christian religion is being abused, misused, perverted, we have more and more of this, plenty of this, manifesting itself through what we today call Christian nationalism, desire to dominate and basically to impose certain kind of Christian faith upon the entire society, issuing at the same time threats that, when we get the power, it's going to be like this, 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 it's going to be like this. And they're saying that they are doing all of this to glorify the name of Jesus. Do you sense the same kind of perversion? Do you see the same kind of perversion? Turning religion into something that God never intended. Dear friends, there is a huge world of difference between religion and faith in Jesus. They're not the same thing. Faith in Jesus says, as if it quotes the words of Jesus, love one another, love others as I love you. Faith in Jesus also gives the most powerful illustration of Jesus when he was on the cross and when he stretched his hands on the cross, and with his hands he literally embraced on this cross the entire world, and he said, forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they are doing. Faith in Jesus is the best medicine against ignorance, arrogance, the spirit of hating one another, religious militarism, and any other vice that actually wants to weaponize religion and pretend that whatever it does is in the name of God, while actually pursuing the objectives of our own wickedness. Paul said in 2 Corinthians in chapter 3, whenever anyone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. One of the problems why the Israel of the modern days is doing today what it is doing is because they have never actually embraced that Jesus. And one of the reasons why so many Christians today are acting the way they are acting is because they have never embraced Jesus. Let's think about this. Let's think about this.